We want to make sure that the background check process is fully staffed, that all information gets in.
The White House making it clear the president will support some changes to gun laws, like improving the federal background check system. But how far is he willing to go on gun control? Joining us now, Saagar Enjeti, White House correspondent for the Daily Caller. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Molly.
So to kick things off, it's not exactly clear. We know that this statement has come forward from the White House, essentially from Sarah Sanders, that he's willing to be supportive of efforts to improve the federal background check system. Beyond that, we have very little insight into what exactly the president might be willing to do. Now, as a businessman, some years ago, he expressed a little bit more support for gun control laws, even writing in 2000 that he supports a ban on assault weapons and also support a slightly longer waiting period to purchase a gun. Now, that, of course, was prior to the expiration in 2004. But on the campaign trail, he took a much tougher stance and was avidly in support of the Second Amendment. So some insight here. What might the president be planning? Could he be the one that's willing to reach across the aisle, seeing that he can sometimes be a bit unpredictable?
Sure. I think that the president has heard these calls, and that the farthest he's willing to go is a realistic solution. And that's what the White House has expressed interest in, which is the Fix NICS Act, which is improving the federal background check system. And it's important to understand that, with many of these mass shootings, if the laws on the books had simply been implemented, then many of them just simply would not have happened in the first place. The Fix NICS Act, it has the support of the NRA. It's a bipartisan bill. It sounds like the White House is going to be making a push behind it. And what it does is it offers incentives to the different federal government agencies in order to properly implement the laws on the books, in order to put, criminal information into that database. Now, in terms of gun control itself, that is not something that it sounds like this White House is going to support. It's not realistically something that is going to pass through both houses of Congress. And I think that Vice President Pence has made it clear here, which is that school safety is going to be a top priority for this administration in the coming months, and they're going to focus on realistic and implementable solutions.
Yeah, it's finding common ground that can often be so very difficult. Democrats have said that they'd really like to see things go farther than just revamping the federal background check system or a fix, as you might say. Meanwhile, some of these students have come forward in recent days. There have been students lying there in front of the White House calling for presidential action. So I guess the big question is, where's the common ground? Not only fighting it in Congress, but also something that the president is willing to sign on to.
Yeah, and the president, I think, is going to be hearing those calls very, very loud and clear when he holds a listening session on Wednesday with teachers and students. And the thing is here is they are looking to the common ground that has already been found. This bill has bipartisan support. Whether, we see the president push for some sort of gun restriction is probably very unlikely. But apparently, and, reports do indicate that he was discussing some of this while he was down in Mar-a-Lago this weekend and quizzing some of his guests on what type of gun control could realistically, could be accepted by some of his voters. So, as you said, this president is unpredictable. If there was anybody who could forge a bipartisan solution on gun control, it is probably him, but it is extremely unlikely from what I'm hearing from this White House.
When you talk about listening sessions, a number of the students, the survivors really from this most recent school shooting in Florida, spoke on Fox News Sunday. And one of them said something particularly striking to me, that they're organizing a march, ultimately, that we're organizing so students can beg for our lives. And they've asked the adults to rise above politics, regardless of party. Is this the turning point? Are these teenagers that have come forward so eloquently, did they mark the turning point?
It's certainly possible. I think that the fact that this White House is even making this push at this time is really because of these students and is because of this shooting. Now, in terms of what they want and what it really means to save lives, I think that they're going to look at this and say, the Texas Sutherland Springs shooting could have been stopped if the Air Force had properly input its information into the background check system. This particular shooting probably could have been stopped if the FBI had followed up on its tips. And so they're going to look at this and say, we hear you, we care about your lives, and we are going to do everything that is possible to enforce the laws on the books which could have stopped these shootings and try and save children's lives.
All right, Saagar Enjeti from the Daily Caller, we appreciate it. It's so fraught, understandably, and so emotional, but it's such an important issue. Thank you for offering your insights.
Thanks for having me.
The FBI joins us.